Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Isabel, Content Marketing Manager here at Opkey, and we are so excited to be joining you today with our webinar on testing KPIs or key performance indicators. We are here with our VP of Product Solutions, Dimpy Sharma, who is an absolute expert in this field and has years of experience over multiple different ERP systems in tracking these KPIs and also in providing testing strategies that work alongside them. So we're going to give everyone a couple minutes to jump in. If you're joining us live, welcome. If you're joining us on the recording, thank you for being here as well. A few housekeeping tips. If you have any questions as we go, please go ahead and drop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We can get to them in real time. And then there will also be a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. We'll also be doing a demo today to show you a little bit about how Opkey can help specifically with these KPIs, as well as much more. And we're just so excited to be bringing this information, partly because even in the last few months, we've had huge developments in our product, a lot of which are connected to AI, that are really increasing the speed and increasing the efficiency of every aspect of the testing lifecycle, from discovery to creating tests to maintaining tests. We really cover it all. So today we'll be exploring how tracking these certain key performance indicators can help keep your testing process on track. We'll be talking about things like defect management. We'll be talking about things like avoiding downtime, minimizing disruption with things like quarterly updates. And really, Dimpy will be giving you an overview of what you should be paying attention to as you develop your testing processes. I do want to say we know that this technology is evolving so quickly, and some people may be testing manually and using no automation at all. Some people may be using automation, but not AI-heavy automation. And I want to make clear that Opkey is no-code AI-enabled automation. We are the most cutting-edge and advanced continuous testing automation platform on the market. So as we go through these key performance indicators, we'll also be talking about how Opkey's platform can help with your personal experience of them. If you have any more specific questions than you feel can be answered here, please reach out to sales@opkey.com or check out our website where you can get a demo very easily. We're always happy to talk to people, provide expert insights for anything from Oracle testing to Coupa testing, Workday testing, and much more. We are an Oracle partner as well as a Workday partner and a Coupa partner. So we are customized for these applications as well as many more. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dimpy.
Thank you, Isabel. And thank you so much, everyone, for making the time today. Hope this is like very good use of your time. And like Isabel said, we're going to stress upon why these KPIs matter. Somehow we don't kind of pay a lot of attention while we're developing these testing programs, right? And towards the end, we kind of look on the testing effectiveness, and that doesn't add a little bit up. But when you start developing a program, which is very much connected with how do you want to achieve the data and the numbers that you want to achieve towards the end, it really helps. What we have done is at Opkey is everything is extremely data driven. So we want to make sure that anything that you do, and when you start the overall engagement, you make sure you start with an assessment of your business case. You know that the ROIs are achieved, and all of that is possible when you look at all of these KPIs broken down. And then these small activities every day, every week will just add up to helping you receive the overall ROI that you like. We're also going to look at the platform and how it actually comes into a practicality and what we actually do as part of the overall testing program. So hopefully this is interesting. I think from a platform perspective, obviously we're the test automation platform. It's a no-code platform. We're heavily engaged into AI as it comes into the industry, and just make sure that everything is extremely intuitive and also efficient at the same time, plus adds value to the overall ERP space, and just make sure that we're disrupting this industry, but in a way that it's complementing something which is part of the process, is something which is part of the technology. Right, so we're extremely binded with the overall approach that was there, which is an extremely agile approach, right? When you kind of make sure that you change these different requirements at different phases of the program, how do you make sure that what's the right start to the testing program? How do you make sure what's the right coverage to your tests? How do you make sure how you change the program and things like that? So our idea is to make sure that we change your business and get it to a test automation platform, but we also give you a platform which is extremely prone to technology and which understands your ERP experience and the overall platform so well that you're able to run the business and run the engagement as in a similar well format as well. There are certain objectives that we want that you achieve towards the end of this webinar, which is essentially how do you structure a program around these KPIs and data that really matter, something that the actual testing owners and the IT heads and the business heads, and hopefully some of you guys are already part of the webinar, and you connect that these are important, right? At the end of the day, even if when you're structuring stuff, even when you're releasing stuff and you're at the end of your program and you have released something on production, all you want is everything that you decided just adds up from a program perspective. So you're going to discover a lot about that. You're going to discover how your testing programs data can be connected, and obviously how do we make sure that we put technology at the middle of this, and how do we help you automate and optimize your overall process. So with that, let's go right in. I would really start to put an assessment, right, where we start assessing this fact, which is, do we want to do it as part of tracking the KPIs, or do we want to make sure that the overall engagement is doing more than what it is expected to do? So if we only look at tracking how your program is doing at one particular point, that might not be the right way of assessing it, only because we understand, right? Every month, every quarter, everything is changing. So if you say that a test coverage which was good 3 months back, it's not going to be relevant 3 months later, right? So all we want to so that tracking is not going to be relevant 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, right? So in order to make sure that it's not only about tracking, but it's about staying ahead, it's about knowing what it's going to change, and then connect your KPIs to the overall program. It's hard, and that's the reason we were into a day and age of a legacy system for the longest time, right? Where the updates and the changes would come 3 years, 4 months. But as soon as we've seen together that this is a digital transformation stage and everything needs to be changed, the business need to adapt with the actual changes that are happening on the cloud. It's very, very important that you're ahead, and any change that you're doing, you're tracking it at one particular point, but we are also seeing ahead. How can you do that? Is only the only way to assess that is you're already are calculating what's going to come up and how it's going to affect my actual running system. If you're able to assess that, you can bind it with the delta of your KPIs today, so you are able to plan for tomorrow. With that, some of the major program runners are, the biggest one is test coverage. Biggest question that you need to ask, biggest thing that you need to make sure at every stage, at every update, at every release, at every change, at every phase, all you need to keep questioning is my test coverage enough? Based on how my organization is moving, how my organization is doing, how my organization is connected with multiple applications, is it covering the overall aspects of my business? If it is, and if you are able to bind those processes together, even if it is not great on the numbers, it's good, it's absolutely fine. I think that is something that we need to be more concerned about. The test execution rate, I think speed is critical. If we are to achieve something that we set out for at the time of business case, at the time of ROIs and big promises, all of that is only possible when you embed technology into the system, when you really make sure that these KPIs are not defined today, but they are ready for tomorrow. The only way to achieve that is something that when you have automated the entire system, right? You have made sure that an automation can be in any way. From a process perspective, it's just one touch. Anything that you do, it's not required to be done by 10, 15, 20 people, and it's not really dependent on multiple teams and things like that. If you're able to break it down into a one touch program, and then even if it has multiple checkpoints, we'll be good with the execution rate. Collaboration becomes key in this overall aspect when you're tracking and maintaining these KPIs, and you're really keeping a check on what you're achieving at different stages and how your overall test case effectiveness is matched. Another big point, right? Not only do you want to make sure that these business processes are covered as part of your test coverage, but they have the right testing data, they have the right testing seeds that you need to feed into the test script, so they are actually validating something that you which is really required for that business process. When that happens, only then you will be able to reach to that level of effectiveness. In a general or a standard space, this would be relevant even if your x number of tests passed based on the steps that you wanted to perform. But in the ERP world, I think most of you would connect, right? In the ERP world, data is directly equivalent to the configurations that you have made in the system, which means that how your business is configured, which means your organization data, your legal entity data, your accounts data, everything that you're processing on a regular basis, all of that becomes your test data. If that's correct, it's most likely your test scripts and the way they are performing and the business processes, the way you set out to do we run on a production environment, all of that will sync up. If that syncs up, you will be able to get a very good test case effectiveness. And if this is left to different teams or people taking out, I think we achieve a lot on that, not taking away. But just from a speed perspective, we'll only get limited just because of the scale of the organizations that we perform into. And that leads to these two critical aspects, right? Defects, whether it is the density of the defect, whether it is the time that we fix the defects and make sure that the retesting happens, all of that is directly proportional to how we execute these top three KPIs. We're going to talk about more in the next slides. How do you measure and improve the test coverage? Again, as I said, test coverage stands tall and at the top. Obviously, I think one of the critical aspects is if you have covered all the different requirements and you have covered all the areas of the different requirements and the different variations of the different requirements, that gives you a good test coverage. That's true. But how do you define all the different requirements and all the different areas and all the different connected systems are part of the test coverage? That should come part of the requirements, that should be part of your test scripts, that should be part of your test suites, or in a manual way, if you're that's part of your test cases. All of that need to be set up at day one. And that needs to be there has to be a process that's continuously updated. As I said earlier, it's important to make that test suite today, but it's more important to make sure that it is continuously updated. So your test coverage is relevant today and it's relevant 3 months down the line as well. How do you keep on improving your test coverage? The only way is to keep on assessing how your requirements is changing, keeping a tap on it. There is a process, or manually, or if someone is doing automatically, there has to be a process that assesses what are the new features that are coming in, what are the changes that are coming in, what is the data or the configuration that is driving that particular change, what are those test cases that should be added based on that change, and how it's going to be connected to the overall regression suite which was running from years, right? How do you add to that? So that's a continuous gap analysis that you do and continuous update of regression suite that you do. Key aspect of achieving the test coverage. I don't think at this particular space, right, the top leaders, people who really care about, people who are really responsible for the overall quality and the testing program and the production release, all of them, the only thing, the biggest thing that matters is there should not be a single defect while your customers or your actual business team or your environment or your business or your ERP is out there on production. Zero. If it is any production defect that gets found on the production environments, it's a loss to brand, and that's a big risk. That's a big risk, and I think that's a big value if you're able to achieve that. So the idea really is to track all of these KPIs, and everything that you do overall from a testing program perspective is to make sure that your production is risk free. How do we optimize the overall test execution suite, the rate, using the automation platform? I think that's a very simple yes, but only having an automation platform or just a simple automation platform where you have to do everything on scratch, and you'll have like different automation engineers all the time working on assessing these changes and making sure, and then always dependent on a manual team who will tell them, okay, go to this step and so forth. It's not going to give you the execution rate that you wish for. And that's again, right, the idea is to, before we know it, last year or a year before, it was like, in the industry, right, it was a big thing. Slowly and surely things are changing. I would say 2020, end of 2023 and the start of 2024 is like everything is changing, let's catch up. That's the game. And we are in this particular space where we want to catch up. There are multiple things to catch up. There's AI to catch up, there's Gen AI to catch up, there's Redwood to catch up, there are changes that you need to catch up, and all of that cannot be in a traditional manual format. Again, not towards manual testing, but overall, even if you're automating something, and even if you're automating your test beds, hundreds and thousands of test beds over and over again, that's a recurring effort that we need to cut down to make sure that you have optimized the overall system. Once you optimize the overall way of maintaining the test suites, test regression is going to take care of itself. What it gives us, obviously, speed and efficiency. It gives us the way you monitor the time that it takes. You can spread across multiple virtual machines. You can make sure that the if the platform is able to generate parallel execution, that's a big plus. If you are able to generate the test data and there's no manual effort in entering the test data, again, big plus for optimization. If you are able to schedule it at different formats, and it's able to assess how to track and how to connect to multiple agents which are available, again, anything that can be run parallelly, anything that can be run simultaneously, anything that can solve a problem of test data, it's good enough. Test case effectiveness. If you want to achieve faster time to market, we need to crack the effectiveness of our tests. There is no point of having test suites that cannot be maintained, are breaking, are flaky, the plugins or the platforms are not able to change with the changing applications. For example, Oracle Cloud. Oracle Cloud as 24B as a technical platform was different. The DOM structure was different. The object properties were different. Oracle Cloud application on 24C is absolutely different. Oracle Cloud application on 24D is going to be entirely different. We can look at the DOM structure, we can look at the properties, everything changes. And just because these are so secured and highly technical applications, you cannot expect them to stay similar. The point really is that the open source platforms, or the platforms which are really dependent on these properties, it's going to fail. And the next time you're executing the same test suite, all you have to do is keep on maintaining and keep on changing these tests. Again, big risk on effectiveness, right? Just from maintaining or of these test scripts, the ratio of the actual execution, the real execution, which can give you some result, it's just going to go down like anything, right? And you're going to get um, failures which are actually not failures, right? So these are more delusional. So in order to defect the actual failures on the application, we need to make sure that the processes and configurations are absolutely on point, so we are able to take care of these fake passes and make sure that the actual trend and the actual reliability of these test cases are on point. Again, reviewing these test suites and having a process, how do you update these test suites, or how do you update the actual test data on these test suites, is very critical. One example, you go to and you create a good automation program, create a good automated test suite. There is a refresh that happens. 15 days later, there's a refresh that happens. Leave alone the actual quarterly patches. In that refresh, the actual data and the way the automation test suites was executed, nothing is going to work. Do we need to go into each and every test script or the data spaces to fill in that particular data again post refresh in order to make that work? I think everybody is like saying yes at this point. I'm sure everybody has gone through, who has really worked on these automated programs, know that this is a big problem. Updating these test data elements after any change is a huge problem. If we are able to crack just changing that particular test data after the refresh, not touching the test script, just changing the test data, refresh happens on my P2T, whatever testing environment I was running into, just scrap that. I'm going to use the same test script, but I'm going to use a different test data. It's possible. Now with the changing technology, all of this is possible. It's simple. You have these test cases, all your test cases, business processes are aligned with the configurations that you have made. All of that is aligned. The data is aligned with the configurations that you have set up. A mix of test script and a good quality test script and a good quality test data set is going to give you that test case effectiveness that you're looking for. Less reviews, less feedbacks, less back and forth. Only one re-execution cycle is going to give you that patch certification that you overall require. Again, that is very much linked, as I said. How do you bind the entire testing program from a coverage perspective, effectiveness perspective, and just making sure the overall testing program is all the bits of these KPIs are aligned. It's going to make sure and the defects and the stability and the reliability or anything that goes on the production is taken care of by itself. If I've covered all the functionalities that are running as part of my configuration, that is it. That is all we need to care about. If that's not part of the configuration and it fails on, it won't be able to run on the production environment. So you don't have to really stress upon that a lot. How do we assess the impact of this defect density? Very, very important, right? More matters when you are during the implementation, when you're running these test cycles. It's very important because you're doing a code level test. It's a unit test. It's a functionality based test. You're not even gone into a system integration test. At that point, it's very, very critical how your system is configured. And when your system gets configured, it gets configured how it gets configured in an absolute agile manner, right? We'll pick 50 different functionalities and I'm going to configure that on some environment, say dev one. I'm again going to pick 50 different requirements on some other environment, absolutely, which is say dev two, on some other environment, next 50. So there are staggered environments that you're actually configuring on, one requirement after the other. Say after phase one, all of these 150 requirements, say 130 requirements have issues. Can you even move ahead as part of your implementation? That's the reason there are multiple examples in front of us, right? The implementation gets delayed for 1 year, implementation gets delayed for 2 years, 3 years. There's not even a limit how the implementation phases get delayed. Bigger problem is this: when you don't bind testing into the overall program very early in the life cycle, you are more prone to receive these defects and issues at every different level of requirement, and you're not able to move ahead with the speed that you actually wish to. How do you make sure that your defect resolution time is aligned? Get the testing program or the tool that you're opting for very early in the life cycle. The delay you do as part of your you bringing it in the testing program, it's not going to be connected to all the different requirements, all the different functionalities, the overall test management platform from a whatever platform, if it is Jira, if it is any other platform, Opkey uses QLM, anything that you choose for, that the overall platform has to set up while the requirements are setting up, while your functionalities are getting connected, while your tests are getting linked to your requirements, linked to your user stories. If everything is aligned and everything is being validated while the development is happening, I'm an implementation specialist. I've done a requirement, I've tested it tonight. Next morning, I come up, oh, 5 different issues, and I fix them. I'm able to achieve the requirement in that same week with the testing that I needed to do, and I know my feedback and I know it works. When you add up all of these different phases together, it will give you a good platform. It will give you a good instance. And then we don't have to test these multiple cycles and then make sure that the defects are resolved and go to these different implementation specialists you assign to them. That person is going to look at it. Once it is connected with 5 different systems, it's harder to make sure that it is or give the resolution for that particular defect. Automatically the defect resolution time is going to much higher, right? So if you have to keep the projects on schedule and within the timelines and within the cost and the budget and that you set out for, you have to make sure that the anything that you're opting for comes like very early in the life cycle. Well, how we can help is using some of these features and the product that we have created as part of the platform. It's particularly developed for the ERP testing programs. It is for you guys. It is for the IT teams. It is for the business teams. It is developed for them. It is developed for the solution architects who are not interested in doing any kind of coding and want to move ahead. And obviously, as technology states, this is AI powered. This uses no code. In fact, we have process mining enabled solution at the backend, which uses assessing these configurations and anything that you're doing on the instance at one particular point to make sure that the tests are aligned with how you're performing it today. The tests are aligned with your logs, with your transaction data, plus the tests are aligned with how you have done the configurations. So not only are we going to give you a test suite that you're running today, but we're also able to assess what the actual test suite need to look like for you to give you optimum test coverage, to make sure that your test data is on point. We have tried to solve one of the biggest problems the ERP testing world today faces from a testing perspective. Who will fetch the data, how it's going to be accurate, because there are 500 links that happens in those tables, in those data sets, that you cannot reach an optimum test data level. We would like to believe that this is pretty much closer. It is more than 90% that we have achieved on these test data sets that gets connected to the test scripts that we fetch out, how you do it today. And we are able to give you a very good gap analysis of what are the different tests that you're not doing or not included today, so as to achieve a regression test suite which is absolutely optimum for your organization and for your instance. Number two, how do we help? Is we are able to not only give you a regression test suite that's relevant today, but we are able to give you a product, a solution which continuously assesses what are the different requirements, what are the different enhancement requests that you've opted for, what are the different, how the different changes look like. And we are able to tell you that these are the changes that have happened. They look like this. These are the test scripts that are affected, and this is how you make the change. So you're able to update the regression suites also effectively. So you've covered the problem of your test coverage, you have solved the problem of test data, you're looked at the problem of effectiveness if the test data is correct. The effectiveness takes care of itself. We are able to bind it during the implementation and post implementation as well. So we support the CRP cycles, the PP3 cycles, the SIT cycles. So it's early in the life cycle as well. We also have a test management platform that actually takes care of you from day one, day zero of your instance. And then while you're in your updates and these patch update cycles and regression cycles and whatnot, we are able to give you a product that gives you or gets to you a real-time impact analysis. So you're able to assess what was there before and what is there today. And that's how the change looks like, and this is how you can update it. I think it's important, right? Testing coverage and how do you maintain your tests would be the top of everything, and that takes care of everything that's connected to it. The time, the execution time, choosing what are the different tests that are relevant, predicting the defects. If you're able to assess because of this change, these are the test scripts that are affected. If I run these processes, it's going to give me the defect that I'm looking for. If there is a defect, it is going to come up if I test this. If you know this, that's it, right? So I think a lot of different perspectives floating around when it comes to how AI is going to make the overall testing program effective and things like that. We would really, I think the way we are heading and with the way we are approaching it is really from the standpoint of how we can make sure that the way you're testing today, how can we make it more seamless for you? I think rather than having five different features or functionalities into it, the bigger idea is how can we make things more quality prone for you? How can we make the documentations extremely intuitive for the entire team? How can we make the tracking and the overall platform understand the overall scope, give you something that really takes away time, even at the click level, even at the assessment level, even at the generation level, even at the customization level? How are we able to uh, bind all of these pieces together that even at that particular level of making sure that the product is able to do stuff that it is supposed to do for you, how can we make that away from the overall business teams and the IT teams, and it just becomes a one touch program overall, right? So that's where the biggest focus is, and then the research is going into how to bind the overall program from a Gen AI perspective. For example, if you're looking at an EPM program, and if I'm able to assess and give you analytics just the way you're able to understand it in an absolute similar plain English text manner, it will be able to it will become very easy to communicate it across the board. So that's the overall effectiveness and the overall protocols that we are making sure that is part of the product, and that makes your life easier. With that, few seconds before we actually get into the platform, and if you have any questions for me, please feel free to put them in the question box. All right, so here we are. This is the actual platform. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is you've already seen, right? I think where we stress is we stress on is the different ways of making sure that the test coverage is on point. So this is a test discovery platform, and I'm giving you a glimpse of how it actually connects to the overall, how it actually connects with your processes, how it gives you the snapshot, how it gives you the different processes, gives you a list of the entire processes that are part of the overall snapshot. And this is a classic process mining, which means that once you create a snapshot for, say, an receivables or a payables, and you analyze it, all the tests that you have been doing manually, it's just going to come as part of the system. So one of the examples is, so this is a payables process. So whatever you have done on the actual program, it just converts into an end-to-end process like this. Then, and these are the entire paths. So for example, if you're the consultants or the people who actually created transactions went from A to B to C to D, all the process and all the different variations are going to come as part of the paths, the testing paths. All the unique test cases will become, all these different paths will become part of your mind scenarios. When we say mind, we say that everything that you have been doing in the system is just converted into different test cases. Everything. So all of that is part of the test scripts. And then whatever you are not testing today becomes part of the suggested test suite, which means that we assess the configurations like this. If this is the payables process, all the configurations get mined automatically. Opkey generates the test data automatically like this. And this test data set directly goes into the test scripts. And when you automate it, all of these tests, all these test data gets, this particular mine use case gets converted into an automated test case where you have the test data which has been fetched, which means that we're able to assess what are the tests that are relevant for your process. We're able to assess what is the actual test data that needs to go into that particular process. And then when you automate it, looks like this for your business unit. The test data becomes part of the test script. And this is the data sheet that gets created automatically. So all of that happens using the test mining. And this is a classic process mining solution that assesses what is actually going on into your system from a configurations perspective, transaction data perspective, and how your folks are actually using the system. Not only that, as when you receive a change, Opkey's real-time impact analysis is able to assess what are the different changes across different forms. So if this is a human capital process and all the different forms that are available, this is the left one is before and this is after. All the different fields that are modified or deleted or changed or mandatory, non-mandatory, any kind of change on that particular form gets assessed. You can see on the impact analysis what are the different test scripts that are changed or affected because of that particular change. What are the components that are linked to this? And you can heal them directly. You can select this particular component, and when you heal it, all the different keywords related to that particular change on that particular fields get automatically applied here based on the change. So this is a plain simple way. Obviously we can talk more about this when we connect with you guys separately, but from a glimpse perspective, this is how we are able to achieve the test coverage for our customers and our prospects the way we set out to.
Thank you so much, Dimpy. We appreciate your time and walking us through these things. We have time for just a few questions, so we'll jump right in. Again, this is your last chance. If you have any, pop them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So we have a question. We are still largely using manual processes such as spreadsheets to document test coverage. We've found that there are things that we have missed. Can you talk a little bit about Opkey's documentation features?
Sure. One of the biggest things that we do on the documentation is that we have our own test management platform. So we're leaving the spreadsheets and Excels and all of that to maintain these tests. And you can maintain these tests from start to end using the test documentation and the QLM platform. Obviously, from a test automation platform, every test is converted into different validation reports. These are thorough reports that contain the overall traceability of that particular module, the detailed level test steps with the snapshots, date and timestamps to take care of the overall security and compliance and anything that you require from a validation perspective.
Thank you. All right, next question. Does Opkey use NLP or chat bots? We're seeing a lot of that in different companies these days.
100%. Even when you log in to the Opkey's platform, all of that is driven by the chatbot. So you're able to navigate through the overall platform and all the different tasks across that platform using that.
Absolutely. For more info on that, we have a lot of good stuff about AI on our website, blogs, downloadable content. So please check that out as well. All right, let's take one last question here. Can you talk a little about the onboarding process? I don't understand how we would transfer a lot of our current processes onto Opkey.
Well, I think we have our own way of when you say these different processes, right? These different processes would be converted into the test cases, and at the end of the day, I think all of these different processes are run by the same standard platform, unless you have like different config customizations, and as part of Oracle Cloud, it doesn't require or it doesn't allow you a lot of these customizations. These are more configurations and we are able to assess them. So these configurations are taken care of. The standard test processes are taken care of. I think you've seen a glimpse. So that comes automatically. We build, the platform is pretty intuitive, right? So it's pretty seamless from a development perspective. So we have an absolute integration platform. You can connect multiple applications if there are integrations, and that's how we bring the overall regression tests suite that you already have, plus the integration tests, and it's a good migration.
Absolutely. It's very seamless and we get really good feedback about people who've just begun. All right, that is all we have time for today. Again, thank you so much, Dimpy, for your expertise. And if anyone had any other questions we didn't get to or anything specific to their ERP environment, please reach out to our sales team and we can get you answers on that right away. Thank you guys, and we'll see you again soon.